So I just watched Penelope. So our story begins once upon a time when Penelope's parents, who are played by Richard E. Grant and Catherine O'Hara, are giving birth to her. But then it actually begins with her great 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 grandfather, who had a love affair with one of his servants, but then realised that he couldn't marry her because she wasn't of noble blood, and so married someone else, and so the servant killed herself by jumping off a cliff. And then the servant's mother, who is a witch, placed a curse on the family so that their first daughter that family had would be born with a pig's snout. And sure enough, they have son after son after son until eventually Penelope is born and she has a pig's snout. So the curse is real, I guess. The curse can only be broken when one of her own kind loves her, until death does them part or something. She is kept locked up in their house until she is about 18, and then all these men are brought in by a matchmaker to meet up with her and see her and hopefully fall in love with her. But every single one of them, as soon as they see her pig snout, run away, and most of them auto-defenestrate, which I props movie. Props for letting me say auto-defenestrate, thank you. There is a montage of multiple auto-defenestration, so that's made me happy at least. Here's the thing where it immediately falls apart for me. Even though she has like the pig nose, she's still Christina Ricci. She still looks absolutely beautiful. So there is like no circumstance under which I believe these people would be so turned off by the pig nose, because it's barely even a thing. It's not like a ugly, like hideous face. This is not Beauty and the Beast we're talking about here. We also learned that the mother, upon being so afraid of all the reporters when the baby was born, faked the baby's death and had the fake dead baby cremated. And that way she doesn't exist now that she's locked up in this room. This is not good parenting. A guy is in there to meet Penelope, and she reveals herself to him, and he runs and runs and runs away. Yeah, normally the butler chases them down, tackles them, and brings them back so that they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. But this guy gets away, he escapes, and I knew we should have had them sign the gag order first. He runs and he gets to a police station, tries to report that he's seen this horrible pig girl. Obviously, they don't believe him, and so they put him in a holding cell overnight, although as he's being dragged off, he is overheard by Owen from Torchwood, who is a reporter, who writes a story saying how this guy has claimed he's seen a pig, and therefore he must be crazy. But while he is at the newspaper refuting this claim, he runs into Peter Dinklage with an eye patch. And Peter Dinklage with an eye patch is a reporter who had tried to take a picture of Penelope when she was a baby, and Catherine O'Hara had hit him in the face with a stick, and that's why he's missing an eye. And so Peter Dinklage wants to send in this kid to try and win back Penelope so that he can get pictures of her and put it in the newspaper. But this guy is like, no way am I going to do that. She's a hideous monster. I can't do it, no. And so they go to this gambling den, track down this guy who is, he's a lord who, or he was a lord, like he comes from a noble family, but he's used up all the money gambling. And it's James McAvoy, who happens to be gambling with Nick Frost, and Nick Frost has like 2 or 3 lines in the movie. It's like, what a waste of Nick Frost. But I can appreciate having James McAvoy in the movie. I like James McAvoy. So, you know, let's see where we're going with this. And he takes James McAvoy there, and gives him a suit that has a camera worked into it, so all he has to do to take a picture is go like that. Which I'm sure no one will notice you doing that. And so James McAvoy goes in, and there's a whole like queue of guys going into that room, and then Penelope reveals herself to them, but through some circumstance, I don't really remember how, James McAvoy didn't see it. So he's the only one left while Penelope is behind her two-way mirror. And the two of them start talking. And, they get on. He tries to steal a first edition book. And she sees him doing it and is like, of all the first edition books in this house, you pick the one that is worth the least. There are ones there that are worth over $50,000 each, and you picked that one that's worth less than $100. And he's like, yeah, but it's your favourite all the same, though. And it's just... McAvoy is charming. There's no two ways about it. James McAvoy can never not be charming. Like, even when he played a insane killer earlier this year in Split, he was still pretty charming. He doesn't leave, and she invites him to come back the next day, and he's like, yeah, I will. And so we get to the next day. And they talk about, oh, what instrument do you play, James McAvoy? And they go, oh, you'll have to guess. And so they have a thing where they're trying out all these different instruments, and he's just playing continuously terrible versions of You Are My Sunshine, and he tries the double bass, the drums, the guitar, the saxophone, and it's all terrible. He's bad at all of them. So none of those are his instruments. And then he asks Penelope, what do you play? But she doesn't play any instruments, so they play chess. And while they're playing chess, he tries to talk her into leaving, but she doesn't want to go. So he's like, okay, fine, we'll leave it off, whatever. And James McAvoy's starting to fall for her, so he's not entirely happy that Peter Dinklage with an eye patch and the bad guy are just trying to exploit him. And so he gets in a bit of an argument with him, like covers up the bad guy's mouth with his hand, the bad guy licks him, which leads Peter Dinklage to say possibly the best line in the movie, Edward, stop licking Max. It gets to the next day, James McAvoy goes back again, and he starts playing the piano. But he's playing it badly, and so while he's doing it, Penelope comes out and she starts assisting him, like puts her hands over his and plays the piano with him. He turns and sees her and he's a bit startled and accidentally takes a picture. And she runs away from him because he's just staring at her, not running from her, which is unusual for her because everybody runs when they see this tiny little pig snout that's barely even a thing, whatever. But yeah, he goes back out to Peter Dinklage with an eye patch, and now he has the picture. And Peter Dinklage, oh, I'll give me the camera, but he just throws the camera on the ground and destroys it. It's like, no, I'm not going to have it. But then Catherine O'Hara sees him, like outside with Peter Dinklage, and he's like, oh no, wait. And he runs and he like vaults over the gate and runs and beats them into the house so that he can explain himself. And Penelope says, oh, well, you can marry me, you could break the curse. And he's like, I can't. I'm sorry. And so that's the end of that for now. So then during the night, Penelope runs away from home. She just steals out the door, runs off. She's stolen her mother's purse, so she has like credit cards and money and whatever. And the whole time she has her scarf pulled up over her face so that no one can see her little pig nose. And of course the first thing she comes across is this whimsical street fair that happens to be going on. Just happens to be a whimsical street fair, just there. How fortunate. And then she checks herself into a hotel. So then, upon realising that she's run away, Peter Dinklage with an eye patch and the bad guy go to get like a sketch made of Penelope, and it's really hideous and she has fangs. They put that in the paper saying, have you seen this pig? Any information or any pictures, sell them to us. And naturally it's a bit of a jerk move, and the parents have to try and track her down, but they follow her to the hotel because they track the mum's credit card. But then, as they get there, Penelope runs away again. This time without the credit card, so maybe she's a little bit stuck. So to get money, she calls... Okay, so my camera's battery died before, so this is kind of take two a few hours later, and it is very warm in here now. Penelope now needs money because she's had to flee from the hotel, so she sells pictures of herself to Peter Dinklage with an eye patch. But Peter Dinklage with an eye patch sees the picture, thinks, well, she's not hideously ugly like you said she was. I'm having second thoughts about this, but this still ends up being printed in the paper, and now everyone's out looking for her because they've got to find this weird pig girl. And so she goes to a pub, because earlier on James McAvoy had mentioned to her that the best thing is to drink beer on draft. And so she goes into the pub. The guy seems to just give her a beer without her paying for it, even though the first one he slides along the bar and it drops and breaks on the floor. So not only does she break one of his glasses, she then drinks all his beer for free, through a straw because she doesn't want to lift up the scarf. And then while she's there, she meets Reese Witherspoon, who is a delivery girl, and the two of them drink for a bit, and then they go off and ride on Reese Witherspoon's Vespa, and now they're friends. And I guess they said that 3 weeks passes there or something. I don't really pay attention. But yeah, after this time has passed, she ends up being seen by her parents again. She runs, faints, and they pull down her scarf to get her some air, and her nose is revealed. And now she's kind of a pseudo-celebrity because there's all these people taking pictures of the press wherever she goes. And she ends up not going. She's about to be taken home, but she doesn't go because she basically blackmails her parents into not taking her. Solid plan. And now the city has embraced her. She is loved by all, apparently. Even this thing that says, they're showing all these newspaper clips, and this one of them says, "Pig Latin banned in schools." I don't know if that's sensitive or insensitive. The bad guy, who now looks terrible because he painted her off in this negative light, comes to try and win her over and offers to marry her, which Catherine O'Hara is like, you have to do it, because otherwise you'll still look like this forever. Because Catherine O'Hara in this movie is just a terrible mother. I miss Home Alone Catherine O'Hara. That's the good Catherine O'Hara mum, even though she leaves her kid home alone. She gets engaged to the bad guy, and they're planning the wedding for very, very soon. Meanwhile, Peter Dinklage with an eye patch, who is now fully regretting what he's done, is called to go to prison about the noble guy about James McAvoy. And he goes there, and it turns out that the guy he wanted actually was Nick Frost the whole time, and that's why he was there. And James McAvoy is in fact a plumber, or the son of a plumber. You know, he's not noble, he's not a blue blood, he's just a guy. Which is why he didn't want to marry her, because he couldn't have broken the curse because he's not one of her kind, etc, etc, etc. And so eventually we get to their wedding, and it comes up to the big moment, and the bad guy says, "I do," but Penelope says no. And she runs back off to her room, where she comes to the realisation that she likes herself the way she is. And BAM! The curse is broken. Suddenly she has a normal nose. So I guess the moral of the story is, learn to love yourself regardless of your imperfections, and then your imperfections will just go away. I really feel like this undercuts the movie's message that it's trying to make. When you get rewarded for it, you get rewarded for accepting who you are by suddenly no longer being who you are. It doesn't make sense. It's just, this is the message of the movie, and I just really feel like it doesn't stick the landing on any of it. And also it makes me question, if there's this loophole that one of you, because the whole thing is that one of your own kind has to love you enough to break the curse, do neither of her parents love her? What? But yeah, she has the normal nose now, and she looks almost exactly the same as she did before. Again, going back to my earlier point that the nose isn't anything to be concerned about, why would anyone care? But yeah, she becomes a teacher, I think, and there's all these kids getting dressed up at Halloween, and almost everyone at Halloween is getting dressed up as Penelope by wearing pig outfits and a purple coat. It's like, that's a bit weird. It's got to be odd for her. Yeah, so she goes to this Halloween party at James McAvoy's building, goes in and talks to James McAvoy, and the two of them get together. The end. I like what this film was trying to say. You know, they're trying to say this whole thing of, you should accept people for who they are, and, you know, outward appearances don't matter, but you undo that when you change her outward appearance at the end. So what it says is, outward appearance does matter, but once you become fine with it, the appearance goes away, which is not a thing that happens. It's just... I don't really know why I watched it other than it was on Netflix. So I suppose my final thought on Penelope is